We're going to talk about a question that is not a helpful question that I would bet is in most of your minds most of the time. Should I quit? Should I quit? It has a little stepbrother that runs around with it. His name is, am I good enough? Should I quit? Am I good enough? Those two questions tend to hang out in the minds of screenwriters. There are some writers who don't. They don't think about that. It's not even in their mind. Now, some of these people are not capable of insight, but not all of them. Some of these people, their mind is actually focusing on something else. They just have a different focus than you do. And so the first question is, how nice would it be if you didn't have these questions in your mind? If you just didn't wonder about it, how nice would that be? If it was just an empty space in your mind, it didn't exist anymore. You could barely even recall, what was that question again? Right? How nice would that be? If you didn't have to be at war with yourself between the part of you that wants to do your passion and the part of you that wants to quit. What if that wasn't even a war? What if you didn't even think about quitting? Or what if you knew exactly, if there ever was a time when it was time to quit, you would know, and until that time, you're not doing it? How nice would that be if suddenly there was a space there? You could barely even remember the time when you used to wrestle with it. How nice would that be? We're going to do some work today to start to make some space. Now, the first thing is, usually when we have these negative thoughts come up, what we try to do is stuff them down. We try to stuff them down, or alternatively, we give them like, hey, why don't you just take the whole room? What else do you have to say, unpleasant voice? We tend to do one of these two things. We either tend to go like, obviously you're right, get up on the pedestal and start monologuing to me, or we go, don't listen. And it takes so much energy to push that thought down. So, have you ever had a friend who has a crazy idea that you disagree with? Right? Anybody have a friend who has a crazy idea that you're like, yeah, there's no way that's true? Let's assume it's not offensive. It's just a dumb idea. We'll make up one. I'm pretty sure that this pen is invested with magical powers by the pen gods. This is my dumb idea. Like this pen, if I ever lost it, I might not be able to write anymore because this pen is actually the source of all of my magical powers. Can we agree this is a pretty dumb idea? Is anyone trying to like stuff my idea down and make sure they don't hear it? No, you're not doing that, right? Is anyone going, please tell me more. Why don't I just give you the whole room? I'm just going to meditate on your magical pen powers, right? No, we're not doing that. Almost in the Buddhist sense, we're just observing them in this interesting idea. And we might go, oh, well, let me try to help them. Let me try to help them make a little bit of sense of that rather than getting invested in their story. These parts of you, they're just parts with the same stupid freaking pen idea with a different name. They've just got a stupid freaking idea. However, there's probably a part of you that goes, but what if they're not stupid? What if they're right? By the way, I am telling you this story as someone who, for years, struggled with the most debilitating writer's block that you can imagine. I'm telling you this story as someone who, for years, made the mistake of doing battle with these stupid friggin' voices in my head until I learned a different way of dealing with it. So I'm sharing with you some hard-won stuff that worked for me and that continue to work for me. And I'm sharing with you a practice that I have to continue practicing. Where I like to start is, let's just make sure that the pen idea isn't totally freaking stupid. If the ranting lunatic is telling you the pen is magical, let's not be judgmental, but also let's not like fully engage because they're probably a lunatic. But let's just check. I'm going to give you some parameters of when it's okay to quit. Because there are sometimes it's okay to quit. It's okay to quit when you have discovered something that you want even more than the thing that you are leaving. One of my students, extraordinarily talented student from my masterclass way at the beginning. I loved working with him and I loved his writing. And he said, Jake, I'm going to leave the masterclass. And I said, why? Is it a money thing? If it's a money thing, we're going to figure it out. Like, what's going on? And he said, Jake, I just got married. And I realized my priority is having a child. And my priority is what matters to me right now is I want to find a job that allows me to provide for my child. And until I have that, I don't really want to focus on writing. I want to focus on that. And I said, Mike, I think you should leave the masterclass. Congratulations. He was moving towards another dream. Do you guys see that? And he actually made the choice structurally. And we were going to talk about his decision. Of course, Darian, he can do both. But just as I am not here to tell Trent whether he should focus on the spiritual side or the action side, I am not here to tell Mike whether he should focus on doing both or whether he should focus on doing his passion. Does that make sense? What I heard from my student, and I believed him, I heard the foundation underneath him. I felt the solidity. I felt the courage. I felt the clarity. I felt the peace in him. I knew what he was saying was true. So I wasn't going to make him doubt himself. And I wasn't going to tell him, you could do both. I wasn't going to push him. I saw a person pursuing a bigger dream. I said, I think you're making the right decision. And I supported him in pursuing that. And years later, he came back and he had gotten himself a great job and he had a great foundation and he had a beautiful child. He came back to the school and he said, I'm ready to come back to my writing now. Right? And do you see how beautiful and healthy that is? He actually took a step towards growth. I've made that step myself. I had success extraordinarily young. I was a child. I was still in diapers when I saw my first script. And so I turned 30 and I had a successful career already, which is crazy. And I realized I wasn't pursuing my real dream. That there was a dream that I was afraid to pursue. I desperately wanted to direct theater. And I was afraid to pursue that dream because I was afraid to be poor. I had the opposite fear of Mike. I was afraid to be poor. But I knew that was the real dream. And I knew even though I had the job that all my theater friends wanted, writing screenplays and getting paid for it, I knew that the only thing that was really keeping me from pursuing my real dream was fear of poverty. So for my 30th birthday, I allowed myself to pursue my real dream. I told my agent, I'm going to New York for a couple of years. I'm going to direct theater. My agent said, even if you're directing on Broadway, it wouldn't be worth my time. It's not enough money. And I said, thank you. I knew exactly where I stood. I knew exactly what it would mean if I did it or if I didn't. And I looked inside myself and I said, is it worth losing my agent? Yes. I had been saving money for 2 years. I had been putting every dollar I possibly could away so I could pursue my real dream. Right? And I went to New York and I directed theater for a couple of years, produced and directed, and it was freaking wonderful. And Kelly, you know how much money I lost. It was wonderful. And it's actually what led me back to writing. As soon as I went to New York to pursue my real dream, I suddenly wanted to write again. For the last couple of years, I had been pushing myself to write. I hadn't wanted to do it. I was struggling with it. It started to feel like a job. The moment I said, okay, you get to pursue your real dream, Jake, suddenly I had all these ideas. I had this play I wanted to write. I had this script. Suddenly I wanted to write again because I was back in alignment with myself. Does that make sense to you all? Guess what? Neither of those dreams turned out to be the dream. The actual dream I'm actually doing right now. But I didn't even know that dream existed until I pursued the dream that I was afraid of, my fear of poverty. I had to confront it. Because when somebody says, do you want to be a teacher? You don't think, oh, I bet I'm going to do great. You think, oh, does that mean I work at a coffee shop at night? I had to confront my fear of poverty, and I had to pursue another dream that I loved, but that also wasn't the right dream, in order for the real dream to go, oh my God, this is what I want to do. I want to teach. That's what I want to do. That's my little secret, right? That I was a secret even from myself, right? And I spent 10 years, I always wrote and I always painted, but not a lot. I spent 10 years just getting this school to a place where it could support itself. Right? And then that brought me back to a place. Right now, I'm writing like a crazy person and I'm painting like a crazy person because I built that infrastructure underneath myself. So what am I trying to communicate? Pursuing the dream is never wrong. And if the dream changes, guess what? That's cool. Running away from fear is almost always a mistake. Okay. If Mike had said, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to support my child, I would have said, Mike, it sounds like you need to figure out how you're going to support your child and do your passion. I would have given him Darian's advice. But because Mike said, no, this is what's important to me, I said, go do it. Does that make sense? And don't worry. He's going to come back. Of course he is. He's a freaking writer. He can't stop. He needs to do it. So if he needs to go try something else because he thinks that's the right thing, either that is going to be the right thing, it's going to lead him to the right thing, or it's going to bring him back to what the right thing was all along. Does that make sense? And by the way, this probably sounds like the structure of a lot of movies you've seen. Right? In almost every movie, there is that moment where the character gives up on their dream. And sometimes it's not until they actually look at that in the face that they're able to actually pursue their dream. Neo starts the Matrix going, all I want is to be the one. Halfway through the movie, he finds out that he's not the one. And his dream changes. And he pursues a new dream, which is a mistake. It's okay. He realizes the only person who could be the one is Morpheus, even though Morpheus says it's not him. And he decides, I'm going to dedicate myself to making Morpheus the one. And even though he's wrong, it's the process of pursuing that wrong dream that leads him to realize, holy shit, I am the one. What's important, you can see Neo is running towards the love, not away from the fear. What that means is we got to figure out if we're running towards love and away from fear, and it's really fucking hard to know. Because our brains label things mistakenly. They mislabel things so that we don't have to look at them. So there are a couple of ways you can know. One of the ways you can analyze it is, how's it coming to me? Even if it sounds like love, your great dream is to do this. That's not what love makes you feel like. If it's coming to you in a manic way, if it's coming at you like electric shocks, there's a very good chance that it's actually fear-based. If it comes to you in that kind of quiet, settled way, there's a good chance that it's towards love. When it comes at you quietly and your body feels settled and you see it clearly, that's towards love. That's towards passion. Okay. So, one of the ways that I freed myself of this cycle that I was in, am I good enough? Should I quit? Is I made a little rule for myself. I am allowed to quit, but not until I have confronted my fear. Back in those days, we didn't have Zoom. When you left LA, that was the end of your career. I needed to know when I left LA that I was not running away from my fear of writing. So I set a goal for myself. I had to complete 3 more screenplays. I had to get them to the point where I felt they were done. And that once I did that, I agreed I could make the decision about whether I was going to go to New York or not. Does that make sense? Yeah, then New York might just be an escape. Does that make sense? It might sound like love, but it might really be just, I'm fucking scared. Okay, great. I'm going to turn and look at the fear. I'm going to write 3 more scripts. I'm going to make sure that I believe they're done. I'm going to do that work on myself to get myself good enough. And then if I still choose to leave, I finish my 3rd script. And I made the choice to go to New York. And I might just as easily have made the choice to stay. And guess what? That would have been cool too. Right? The second rule I had was, and this is a rule I've kept with myself forever, I am not allowed to change course until I know I am running towards something I want more than what I'm currently doing. So if I choose tomorrow to stop teaching, that's not going to happen. But let's say I did. Let's say I said, tomorrow, so much for Thursday Night Right, so much for teaching, I'm done. That's fine, right? And I can tell you, running a business is really hard. It's much easier now. I have an amazing team now. Running a business at the beginning is really, there were many times where I was like, should I just burn it all down? But I would have been burning down my dream. I had to get it to a place where the dream could be nice. So if I decided tomorrow, I don't want to teach anymore, that's cool. I can do that. But what am I running towards? Am I running towards, do I want to become a ballet dancer? Great, run at it, Jake. Do I want to go sit under a Bodhi tree for 3 years? Great, go for it, Jake. If that's my dream, great, go for it, Jake. Right? If you are moving towards a dream, you are in good shape. However, you probably know a lot of people who bounce from dream to dream. They have a different dream every day, right? And they never accomplish anything because today they're creating an essential oil line. And then tomorrow they're launching a dress company. And then 3 days later, they're building a website for a coaching business. And they're never actually doing, because what they're actually doing is they're hitting the point where it gets hard. They're hitting the fear and they're bouncing to something they think will be easier. Does that make sense? So here's the next little piece of truth that I know. Nothing is easier. Nothing's easier. I have friends who were incredible playwrights in college, who thought if I go to a corporate job, that will be easier. They have more money. It wasn't easier. Showing up every day for a job that you don't love is not easy. That's called hell. Now, I have other people who went into corporate world and they love it. It's their passion. That's easy. And guess what? Their jobs are hard and challenging and there are obstacles, right? And there are days when they wonder, am I going to survive? Am I good enough? Right? So the first thing is you move towards love. If you're bouncing, you're running. So go ahead, turn around and look at what you're running from. And what I found was that once I made that peace with myself, that I'm allowed to quit, but only when I'm moving towards something that I desperately want, that I'm going to stick to, suddenly I didn't have to think about whether I was going to quit or not. And what that did was it suddenly allowed me to put all this attention, all this energy that had been misdirected in the past. It suddenly allowed me to put all that energy on my writing, or on my directing, or now on my teaching. Because instead of spending 30% of my time, or if I'm honest, 80% of my time going, should I quit? I came up with parameters under which I was allowed to quit. I was not allowed to quit a moment before that. And then anytime those thoughts came up, I went, oh, I'm not allowed to think about that right now. Have I finished my 3rd script? No, okay. You don't get to think about that right now. It's not an option. Does that make sense? Figure out the parameters. If not, it's not an option. You could just ask yourself, if I knew that I was going to be a wonderful writer, but that I was going to have to do it for free, If I knew my stories, my movies, my books, my plays were going to change people's lives, but I knew I was going to have to do it for free. Or if I won $1 billion, never had to worry about money again. And maybe fame is a thing for you. And I was super famous, right? I made a stupid YouTube video and everybody knew my face and thought I was wonderful. Would I still want to write? If the answer is no, then give yourself the gift of figuring out what the answer is yes to. And go do that. Because you only have one life as far as we know, for sure. There are certain philosophies that say you get more, but the only one that I can absolutely guarantee you is the one you're currently living. And what I can guarantee you is if you do it for free and you spend your life doing it, you are going to have a great freaking life. It might be a hard life. It might be a challenging life. There might be money issues, but you're going to have a great life. And I guarantee you, if you don't do that thing that you love, that you would be willing to do for free, my dirty secret, I don't have to. I would teach for free. And not just this class. I would do all of my classes for free. If I ever made $1 billion and didn't need money anymore, the school would still exist and I would still teach all my classes and all my beloved students. They just wouldn't pay me. Because I love it that much. Does that make sense to you all? So don't do it. Go find something you would do for free. You love it that much and dedicate your life to that. You love it so much, you're willing to do it for free. You can't quit. You can't quit and still be you, because you're one of those people who needs it so bad that you would do it for free. Does that make sense to you all? And yeah, we're all doing it for free. Most of your writing is going to be for free, even at the top of your career. Even when you're $1 million script writer, most of your writing is going to be for free. Because even as you're working on these $1 million projects, you're going to be sitting up late at night with your computer with this thing that you need to get out of yourself. This thing you need to explore. So if you are not willing to do it for free, go figure out what you want to do for free. Go do that. Dedicate your life to it. You're going to have a great life. If you are willing to do it for free, stop asking the question. It's a dumb question. You're going to do it. And you're going to keep doing it until such a time as something so magical presents itself that you didn't even know, in which case, go do that. And you're going to live a great life. Now, also, once you know that you love it so much you would do it for free, you can totally dismiss the question of whether you're good enough. And here's how you do it. You simply decide it doesn't matter. There are millions of artists who are not good enough, who are still usually successful and write and create incredible things. One of my favorite examples is Bob Dylan. Can you imagine Bob Dylan asking his high school music teacher, hey, do you think I could be a singer? Any kind teacher would probably be like, Bob, you're kind of off key. You got a weird voice. It's probably not going to happen for you. And he's freaking Bob Dylan. And guess what? He's not Eric Clapton. He is not one of the greatest guitar players to ever live. Right? He decided to do it even though he wasn't good enough. He went and did what he loved even though he wasn't good enough. And he ended up creating some of the new kind of singing, as somebody just said. So this is a little secret. None of us are good enough. So stop wondering if you're good enough or not. None of us are good enough. Because we as writers, as artists, are in a constant state of development. You know how good enough I am today? I'm as good as I am today. I will be a better teacher tomorrow than I am a teacher today. And 17 years ago, I started the studio. I was a great teacher. Guess what? I couldn't hold a candle to the teacher I am today. Right? I was already not good enough because the person I had the capability of becoming could only come from doing it again and again and getting better and better and better at the thing I love. Decide that you're willing to do it, even if you're not good enough. Decide that if you're not good enough, you're going to figure out how to become stronger at the things you value. How are you going to grow? What do you need to learn? What's exciting? What is going to help you take a step towards the good enough that you want to become? And you will never reach that point. I am not the teacher I want to be, even at this moment. And I'm saying to myself, this is one of my better lectures. But even at this moment, I am not the teacher that I will be in 10 years. But I'm doing the very best I can today at the thing that I would secretly do for free. And this thing has cost me money and time and tears and doubts and all those things. But when you take your eye off of the doubts and the fears and you put your eye back on, am I willing to do it for free? Yes. Am I allowed to quit right now? No. Okay, let's stop asking stupid questions and let's figure out, what does this project need right now? What does this piece need right now? Suddenly you have all of your attention on the thing that actually matters to you. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. These lovely people are going to open up breakout rooms so you all can connect. And if you want the homework, I'll give you the homework so you can do it for homework, or you can do it in your breakout rooms and share them in your breakout rooms. Most characters have a moment where they think about quitting or even decide to. So what you're going to do is you're going to write a monologue from your character's perspective where they explain why they're going to quit. Explain to another character who matters to them why they're going to quit. And then you're going to write the scene on the other side of that where they don't. You're going to write all the reasons why they're going to quit in the most powerful, clear, compelling, persuasive monologue you can possibly write. And then you're going to write the scene on the other side of it where they do it anyway. You guys got it? Thank you for coming to Thursday Night Writes. Please keep helping us spread the word. I'll see y'all next week.